you're releasing a slew of new facts today. Talk to us about what the data is telling you and surprising trends that you are seeing.
Yeah, let me share a little bit. As you mentioned, we started USA Facts, focusing on taking government data and publishing it. Obviously, the topic of the day is Corona. And one of the things that I find fascinating is how hard it has been to really surface and bring together data about the disease all the way down to the county level. We have essentially been sourcing data not only from the CDC, but from county health departments, bringing it together and publishing it on a county by county basis. We've actually had inquiries from over 20 different government agencies, including the CDC itself, for this amalgamated view of the information. I think it's a thing that points to the importance of really integrated government data telling us a story.
So then what story is the data telling you? We've all been overwhelmed by facts about the curve and rising numbers of cases. In your estimation, from what you can see, how much worse is this outbreak going to get?
Well, that would imply I'm some kind of forecaster. We don't do that in general, and specifically in this area. I wouldn't do it. If you take a look, though, on a county basis on what's going on, you certainly continue to see counties in which the rise of new cases continues at almost an exponential level. In King County, Washington, where I live, which was the epicenter of the outbreak, we've actually started to see a gradual, if you will, flattening out of the curve, which leads me to believe I can have some optimism. Not that people aren't going to suffer gravely from this disease, but perhaps there's light at the end of the tunnel here, more similar to what people saw in South Korea and China than what people are seeing in Italy. But you can look at the county data and get a sense that with the right precautions and work, there's opportunity for progress.
You're also looking at the industries that'll be hardest hit, whether it's the airlines or hospitality, restaurants, food services, the food service business. Where do you think we're going to see the biggest brunt of this economically?
Well, I want to highlight food service. Over 8% of people employed in America actually work in the food service industry. And by that, I mean restaurants, bars. We're not just talking food development, food growing, food distribution, but actually food service, 8% of the population. And while it's not that big a share of GDP, and people normally look at the GDP numbers, from an employment perspective, where I think the rubber will meet the road in terms of how well people live. People have to keep their jobs. People have to have sick leave. Obviously, with the new Senate deal that was approved yesterday, there's certainly government relief coming. And we're diving into that and bringing together on USA Facts the relevant data. But if you just take a look at that food sector, 8% of all jobs, these are low-paying jobs, typically without sick leave. It's a very scary economic proposition.
Steve, what's your view on the markets going forward? I mean, nobody knows exactly which way this is going to go, but, obviously I know you're still a huge holder in Microsoft. Microsoft has managed to stay above that $1 trillion market cap, but even Microsoft hasn't been immune to these huge and volatile swings. What do you see in the bigger macroeconomic picture and for big tech?
Again, not necessarily a prognosticator, but at the same time, I think it's fair to assume the markets will stay volatile. I think the markets will stay depressed, if you will, for some time. I think tech specifically from a P&L perspective, depending on where you are in tech, is likely to get hit less, if you will. Certainly software services, Microsoft Office, Azure, for the ones I love, Amazon's AWS, Zoom, will continue to get used, maybe even at a higher rate during this time of crisis. One thing I've been watching, Zoom is a competitor of Microsoft Teams, and I noticed Zoom stock has almost been counter-cyclical during this time, and certainly is one of the few stocks that's moved up as we see more and more people work from home.
So, look, the president is speaking very optimistically about reopening the economy potentially by Easter. You've got health experts who are saying that's just far too soon. Who's right?
Well, in general, I believe in the scientists, if you will, but I do think there's a good point here. There's really a three-step cadence that we need to see. Number one, we have to do the things with urgency that the scientists tell us to do to hit the flattening of these curves. Number two, we really do have to take care of people economically right now. The economic hardship is too punishing. And then number three, we can't forget we do need to restart the economy. It's getting the cadence of those things right that's so important. And I think the gate, if you will, needs to be what the scientists tell us on the front end. We're giving people the money. Thank goodness the Democrats and Republicans have been able to agree on that. But we've got to be ready, not rush it, be ready for that third step, which is to reignite the economy.
Now, I've got to ask you about basketball, Steve. You're the owner of the LA Clippers. Of course, the NBA has suspended the season. The league is working on estimates for what losses this will mean. And I know you've done the math. What kind of projections are you seeing in terms of a loss that this means for the Clippers? And what's the most likely scenario for resuming the season, whether it's in Las Vegas or otherwise?
Well, let me answer the second question first. League office is certainly working on thoughts about where we go from here in terms of a season or whatever may be possible or probable. And I won't choose to comment on that. I will say it'd be great to play some basketball, but only if the time is right and the circumstances are right. In terms of the Clippers, we are being diligent about continuing to pay our employees. We're even, especially for the smaller vendors, we're fortunate. We're deep pocketed. We're trying to take care of our smaller vendors. We had a t-shirt vendor we had $100,000 committed to for playoff t-shirts. Well, I think it's important that we pay that money, put it down now, and see what can happen over time, since we are in a little better position. Yes, we will lose money. And I think at the same time, that's going to be true for a lot of businesses. I've been very fortunate in life. I want to make sure that we help take care of not only our own employees, but the population that we can. Certainly at Staples Center, where we play our games, we made sure to pay all of the staff that works game days, not just our own employees, because those folks were counting on that income through the end of our season.
Any idea how much money, Steve?
Well, let's just put it this way. Let's just put, oh yeah, you have to. It'll be 8 digits. How's that? Now you got to start with what we were going to either make or lose before the season started. But net, it certainly will be an 8-digit loss for us.